Quite cool.
So it's my great pleasure to speak with you today about neurodiversity in the workplace and overall thinking about how can we make employment more effective for all. So some of the work that I'll be speaking about today was funded by the Colt Foundation and currently we're running an award on this topic that is funded by the National Institute for Health and Care Research. And we're working with some external partners, and just a couple in particular to mention are Speak Up Self Advocacy and the Sheffield Occupational Health Advisory Service. So the first piece of work that I wanted to speak with you about today was specifically funded by the Colt Foundation, and this is entitled Understanding and Tackling the Barriers to Employment experienced by autistic adults, and I've listed some of my co-researchers up there on the slide. So in general, I thought it might be important to consider why we would focus on autism and employment. So only around 3 in 10 of autistic adults are actually in employment, according to the most recent statistics on the labour force survey. And also employed autistic people are less likely to be in senior roles, according to the survey, and they face the largest pay gap of all disability groups. As many of us know, employment is associated with better health, and this certainly is the case for autistic people. And some work led by Autistica in 2024 indicated that around 75% of autistic people do want to be in work, and they have a lot to offer, but many of these individuals aren't currently in work. They would like to be. And enabling more autistic people into work is a major priority of the UK's National Autism Strategy. So these are some of the reasons why we think it's important to focus on autism and employment. It's also, it's also a focus of the Get Britain Working White Paper to enable those with disabilities and health conditions into work. So why aren't employers hiring more autistic people? So we decided to do a large-scale survey on this to try to understand why this is happening. So this is our first study, and we published this just earlier this year, and the full reference is there on the slide. If you did want to have a look at it, it is open access. So in our employer survey, we had 1,212 non-autistic people who had hiring responsibilities within their organisations to complete a survey. The people that completed the survey ranged in age from 18 all the way up to 77 years, with a mean or average age of around 42 years. Interestingly, of those who completed the survey, 68%, so most people said that they did actually have a close contact who was autistic. And people that completed the survey had experience from a wide range of industries such as education, health, manufacturing, IT, finance and technical industries. You can see a little bit lower down on the slide that we had slightly more males than females in the sample, but we had good representation from those genders. And then in terms of ethnicity, we did have around 90% of the sample was white, but we did have some representation from other ethnicities. And just to emphasize, this was a UK-based survey. So the first thing that we wanted to know from the survey data is what is actually the knowledge level of employers in relation to autism. So just as a reminder, these are people who have responsibility for hiring within their organisations, and these people are not autistic themselves. So we gave out 2 questionnaires that are what we would call standardised questionnaires. So these are questionnaires that have also been given out in other research. And the reason to do these kinds of questionnaires is so that we could compare to other research and find out what is the knowledge level like in our population compared to other populations. And what we found by doing these questionnaires was that the knowledge level of our employers and hiring managers was quite similar to the general population, so not particularly better, not particularly worse. So I think that was a reasonable starting point. Then what we were interested to know is which factors are associated with greater or higher intentions to hire autistic people within these hiring managers. And what we found overall was that those who had the highest intentions to hire more autistic people in the future were those who had previous experience of hiring autistic people in the past. So that was our strongest predictor by far. There was also a small influence that younger employers and hiring managers were more likely to say that they had stronger intentions to hire autistic people in the future. Small effects, males slightly more likely than females to say this, and also those who had higher levels of perceived and actual knowledge were also slightly more likely to say that they had greater intentions to hire more autistic people into the future. So what do employers perceive as the main barriers to employing autistic people in their organisations? So generally people are saying that they intend to hire more autistic people in the future, but we know from that data right at the start of the presentation, only around 3 in 10 autistic people are being employed. It's not happening very commonly across the UK for autistic people to be in employment. And so what we looked at here was various different aspects of employer behaviour. And so what we're using here is something called the behaviour change wheel. And so what we were looking at is different areas of employer behaviour and what was associated with high intentions to hire more autistic people. What we were finding overall in terms of perceived barriers to employing more autistic people was that these employers and hiring managers said that they lacked sufficient knowledge about autism. They lacked sufficient knowledge about reasonable adjustments and employment law. And they also said that their organisations lacked policies and strategies for making and monitoring reasonable adjustments, and hiring managers perceived there to be a lack of support for autistic people within their workplace. So these are what those individuals perceived the barriers to be to employing more autistic people. So on the plus side, in terms of motivation, these didn't really seem to be barriers for people. So people were saying that they intended to and were willing to hire autistic people. They were willing to make reasonable adjustments for autistic people, and their beliefs about hiring autistic people were mainly positive. So these things are really good and things that we can potentially build on into the future. When we looked at the qualitative data, so this is the free text data where people could kind of write further detail, write some responses to questions. What we found was that these hiring managers did convey that they thought there were a range of advantages to hiring autistic people, such as them gaining autism-specific skills and insight in their organisations. They felt that it would improve inclusivity and diversity within the workforce. They felt that it would improve the public perception of their organisation. However, they did also perceive there to be some potential disadvantages. They thought that to hire an autistic person would take extra time and extra resource. Some people had expectations of a negative impact on their workforce. And in terms of barriers that came across from these qualitative responses, people did seem to have some negative beliefs about communication with autistic people, and that there were expectations of the autistic person being less productive employee than someone who's non-autistic, and they felt that they might lack the environment might not be suitable for autistic people to be working in. So from this large survey, overall, what we found was that the strongest predictor of hiring autistic people was previous experience of having done so. In general, employers were pretty motivated to hire autistic people, but they perceived to be a range of barriers. such as around their knowledge of autism, their organisational processes and strategies. And there was some evidence of kind of some stereotype beliefs about autistic people. So, for example, you know, maybe being less productive or incurring higher costs to the organisation, or their organisation not having suitable roles. So what did we do with this information? Well, we moved on to study 2, and in study 2, what we did is co-designed and then did a pilot trial of a web-based intervention. And this intervention was designed to tackle barriers and some of the misconceptions that had been identified in study 1. So specifically, what we were trying to address was gaps in autism knowledge, gaps in process knowledge, and some misconceptions regarding aspects of capabilities and roles. And what we were doing here was something that's called a proof of concept trial. So it wasn't a large scale study, it was quite a small scale study, but what we were trying to do was find out whether employers would engage with this kind of resource and get some preliminary data on whether they thought that this was something that they could use in their organizations. So in this trial, to help to co-design it, we had 2 different groups. We had a steering group of autistic adults, and then we also had a steering group of employers. And information for both of these groups fed into the design of the web-based intervention. So the key elements of the intervention that we developed was that it was knowledge-based, it was easy to use, so what we would call light touch with links. So it wasn't a very long training program, it didn't require lots and lots of multiple re-engagements with it. It was quite a light touch resource, but there were links within it so you could get to further information, further resources if you wanted to. We also included things like checklists for hiring, for onboarding, for line management. And so these were things that our steering group of employers were particularly keen on. They told us that it needed to be easy for them to use, things that they could maybe download and quickly use in the moment to be doing a particular activity. We also included something that we called a value statement that organisations could use and adapt to create their own kind of autism promise, where they could explain to the outside world, to potential employees, what their values were as an organisation and in relation to autism, what these were. And then we also included videos of authentic experiences within the web-based intervention. So these again, it was emphasised by both employers and our autistic steering group that they really wanted to see examples of real life experiences. So things that had worked, but then also maybe there would be aspects in there kind of discussing learnings or kind of different ways of doing things. So it's really important that the experiences that were conveyed were authentic. And so, like I said, we weren't doing a very expansive development and trial here. What we were trying to do was a proof of concept. So this is an example web page. And what we were trying to do is get the basic information on here and then kind of trial that rather than creating an all singing, all dancing website. But it just gives some of the basic information. But you can see you can go through to different pages to get more resource and guidance, to get downloadable resources, and then to learn about different employment experiences. And just give snippets of information, just to give the basics, and then you can link through to more information if that's what you wanted to do at the time. And so this is an example of some of the checklists that we included. So again, it can just be downloaded and then used in the moment. And so one of the pages featured a range of different videos of people talking about their experiences. And hopefully what I'm going to do now is show you a little video of Kelly talking about her experience. Let's see if this works.
Kelly, I'm an autistic adult and I work for a charity as a project coordinator. This job is really fast-paced and comes with a lot of different challenges, but I found with a few reasonable adjustments and adaptations, I've been able to manage my workload really well and use some of my strengths as an autistic person to basically improve our work. Some adjustments that I have are things like I have headphones on when we've got a busy work environment. I'm able to listen to my own music, which helps me focus, because that's how I focus in my everyday life as well. And having that at work has made a massive difference to me. A few other adjustments I have is I have a flexible working pattern. I'm able to manage my own timesheet as long as the hours I do are completed and the work gets done. My management team are really happy with that because they know what I do is good. And I have some other adjustments where sometimes I will take a step back from doing public things and focus more on things behind the scenes and balance things that way. And then sometimes if we're doing a really large public event, which I'm really good at, but I find very, very stressful, I will book an extra day off afterwards so I can recover from that. And with all these adjustments in place, I've found I've been able to keep a job for almost 4 years, which is something that I wasn't able to do beforehand.
Great. So hopefully you could all hear that this time.
So,
okay, so the people that participated in this pilot trial were 20 employers, and so you can see the characteristics of these individuals up on the screen. So again, we had a range of ages, genders, ethnicities, and then we had good representation from a range of different industries, sectors, business sizes, and some varying location of the businesses. So what people told us in terms of usability, what we did, we gave a questionnaire to assess this. It's called the System Usability Scale. It's something that's used really quite widely in research. And again, it means that we can compare to other kinds of interventions. So in terms of usability overall, it was rated as excellent by employers. So we did have one person that did not rate it very highly, but we could see in the qualitative comments, this was mainly around the look and feel of the website, which wasn't something that we really focused on in this study, as it was more about just kind of trying out the content. So we didn't have particular concerns about that one person scoring it really quite low. Like I said, overall, it was rated as excellent in terms of usability. And then we looked at acceptability, which again is something that's looked at in a very kind of standard way across research. And so our question was, how acceptable was the website and its resources to you? And so what we can see here is that the vast majority of people rated it as either acceptable or completely acceptable. So we asked people which parts of the websites that they found most useful or interesting, as we wondered if it might have been just particular resources within the website that were of most use to people. What we found was that 8 people said the videos, all of the people said that they found the resources useful overall. 8 people said the videos were most useful. 8 said resources and guidance was most useful, and then 10 said the downloadable resources. So we did see that people were using all of the different bits of the website. And then we just had a few summary quotes that kind of gave us some kind of qualitative insights into how people found using the website. So, for example, one person said to us, I found this useful and insightful and feel that this would make a real difference to recruiting managers within the organisation and with our recruiting processes moving forward. Another said, I really love the resources and materials. I'm already working at looking at implementing the photo of the interviewer suggestion straight up, which was one of the recommendations on the website. And then finally, somebody said to us, I found the videos on personal experiences really powerful and feel that showcasing real life examples is really important. It also gives organisations and recruiting managers a real sense of reasonable adjustments and small tweaks which can make all the difference to the individual. So what we did was we asked people some questions before they did the intervention, and then we asked the same questions again afterwards. And what we asked people to do was just to engage with the website for around 1 hour at some point over a 2-week period. And what we found was that before engaging with the resource, when we asked people to how much they agreed with the following statements: I feel worried about hiring autistic people in my organisation. A lot of people, so 11 out of the 20, said that they were somewhat worried about hiring autistic people in the organisation. But after engaging with the website, 8 of those 11 people felt less worried after just doing this kind of intervention for around 1 hour. Before people engaged with the intervention, they were provided the following statement: I know enough about autism to hire autistic people. So there were 12 of the sample that initially said that they didn't know enough about autism to hire autistic people, and actually 7 of those felt after doing the intervention that they could more strongly agree with the statement, I know enough about autism to hire autistic people. Thirdly, I know how to make the hiring process more accessible for autistic people. So there were 16 out of the 20 that, weren't so confident in this area initially, and of those 16 who could have improved, 14 actually felt that the intervention helped them improve in this area. And then finally, the statement, I know how to make adjustments to the working environment for autistic people. So before doing the intervention, 13 of the 20 said that they, weren't that confident in this area about making adjustments. And after doing the intervention, 10 of those 13 people did feel more confident that they knew how to make adjustments to the working environment for autistic people. So I think what we can see from this initial pilot study is the results were pretty positive. So it was only for 1 hour. They were asking people to engage with it. It's aimed at tackling those barriers to hiring autistic people. It does suggest that employers find this type of intervention usable and acceptable. It reduces employer worry about employing autistic people, which I think is really, really key. And I think that is causing a lot of employers not to kind of take that leap of faith and employ an autistic person. It does improve employer knowledge about hiring autistic people, improves the knowledge about on making the hiring process accessible, and improves employer knowledge about how to adjust the working environment. So I think we can see that these initial results are quite promising, and employers are able to engage with this kind of resource. So I mentioned that we've moved on from this work. So we've now received an award from the National Institute for Health Research. So it's called a Work and Health Development Award. And so this is something that we're running over a period of 10 months. So we started in September and it'll run until June. And the title of our award is Neurodivergence at Work, ensuring employment support systems meet the needs of neurodivergent people. And what we're doing in this award is doing a kind of scoping exercise to find out all of the information out there that's relevant to neurodivergent people in terms of legislation, in terms of policy. We're doing scoping exercises to find out about the data that's out there, the quality of that in relation to autistic and neurodivergent people more broadly in terms of employment. We're looking at kind of working with a group of autistic people to kind of feed into our research plan. We'll be working with employers as well, again, to feed into the research plan. And what we're doing is in June, we'll be submitting for a large research award, which would then be running for around 3 years, to do a really large, significant piece of work in this area that we hope will really reap benefits for neurodivergent people and enable more people into the workforce in a way that works effectively for them. Okay, so I think that's the end of my presentation. I will stop sharing.